Nobody tells you to do it. That is the strange part. No one sits you down at 22 and says, "Take half of everything you earn and send it somewhere your future self can find it." No one explains what happens when money is given enough time to stop being money and start becoming freedom. No one tells you that the most powerful years of your financial life may arrive before you feel rich, before you feel ready, before your income looks impressive, before anyone around you is even taking the idea seriously. You are in your 20s. You are supposed to be building a life that looks good from the outside. The better apartment, the nicer car, the dinners you do not question, the trips you cannot quite afford but somehow justify because everyone else is going, the small upgrades that make you feel like your hard work is finally turning into something visible. And then there is another path. It is quieter, less impressive at first, harder to explain. It does not give you applause. It does not make your life look bigger on social media. It does not make you feel rich on a Friday night. It asks you to do something that sounds almost unreasonable when you first hear it. Invest 50% of your income. Half. Not after you become wealthy. Not after you get the perfect job. Not after everything feels easy. In your 20s, when every dollar feels like it has somewhere else to go. When the world is telling you to spend because you are young. When your friends are upgrading their lives in real time, and you are quietly choosing not to keep pace with a version of success you are not sure you even want. At first, it feels like restriction. It feels like saying no more often than you expected. It feels like looking at your paycheck and realizing that the money is already spoken for before your wants even get a vote. It feels like discipline before it feels like power. But slowly, something changes. The question stops being, "What am I giving up?" And it becomes, "What am I buying back?" Because every dollar you invest in your 20s is not just a dollar. It is time put into motion. It is a small piece of your labor sent ahead of you. It is a quiet employee that does not sleep, does not complain, does not ask for weekends, and does not care whether you are motivated today. It simply works, month after month, year after year, while you are still figuring out who you are, while your career is still forming, while your income is still growing, while your life still feels unfinished. Those dollars begin building something behind the curtain, and most people will not see it. They will see the car you did not upgrade. They will see the apartment you kept longer than you had to. They will see the things you skipped, the things you delayed, the things you did not buy when you technically could have. They may think you are being too serious, too cautious, too intense about a future that feels far away, but they will not see the curve. They will not see what happens when money invested at 23 is still working at 33, and then 43, and then 53. They will not see the compounding while it is still small enough to ignore. They will not understand that what looks like sacrifice in the beginning can become margin, and what becomes margin can become choice, and what becomes choice can eventually become a life that is no longer controlled by every paycheck. That is what investing 50% of your income in your 20s really does. It changes the relationship between your present and your future. It forces you to decide what matters. While most people are still spending by default, it makes you confront the difference between comfort and freedom. It teaches you that wealth is not always loud at the beginning. Sometimes it looks ordinary. Sometimes it looks boring. Sometimes it looks like a person cooking dinner at home, driving the same car, opening the same investment app, and making the same quiet decision again. But underneath that ordinary life, something extraordinary is happening. The future is getting lighter, the pressure is getting smaller, the number is getting stronger. And one day, sooner than most people think, you look up and realize that the decision you made in your 20s did not just grow your money. It changed your options. It changed your confidence. It changed the way you move through the world. Because investing 50% of your income is not really about becoming the person with the biggest portfolio. It is about becoming the person who understood. Early that time was the asset. discipline was the bridge, and freedom was never going to arrive by accident. Nobody tells you to do it. There is no moment where someone sits you down and explains what happens when you decide, early in your 20s, to invest 50% of everything you earn. And yet, this one decision quietly separates two completely different futures. In your 20s, everything feels urgent, but nothing feels permanent. You are surrounded by noise, by pressure, by people trying to build lives that look impressive right now. But the truth is simple. What you do with your money in this decade is not about today. It is about the shape of your entire life later. Most people never realize that time is the real asset, not income, not status, not even intelligence, but time working quietly in your favor. And when you invest half your income, you are not just saving money, you are buying time in the future that no one can take back from you. It starts small, almost invisible. 1 month, one decision, one habit that feels uncomfortable at first, but slowly something changes. Your relationship with spending changes, your relationship with waiting changes, and your relationship with yourself changes. You begin to see that what looks like sacrifice is actually control, and what looks like limitation is actually direction. And while others are building lifestyles they need to maintain, you are building freedom you will not have to maintain. In the beginning, it will not feel powerful. It will feel tight. It will feel like you are missing out on something everyone else seems to enjoy without thinking. But that phase does not last forever, because discipline always starts as resistance before it becomes identity. And one day, without a loud moment or a dramatic shift, you will look at your life and realize something has changed in a way you cannot easily explain. Not because you earned more, but because the decisions you made early started working in silence, building a future that feels less like effort and more like space, and at that point, you will understand what 50% really meant for you in time ahead. Now, nobody tells you this when you are in your 20s. Nobody warns you that the biggest difference in life is not how much you earn, but what you decide to do with it while your life is still small and flexible. Because in your 20s, everything feels like it can wait. You think there will always be more time, more chances, more income, more stability. But there is one thing that never waits for you, and that is time itself. And when you decide to invest 50% of your income, something strange begins to happen in your life. At first, it feels extreme. It feels like you are stepping away from the way everyone else is living. People around you are upgrading their lives, slowly building comfort, buying ease, chasing the feeling of being settled, and you are doing something different. You are choosing delay over impulse. You are choosing future over comfort. You are choosing a path that does not give you instant reward, but builds something that grows quietly even when you are not looking. In the beginning, it does not feel powerful. It feels like restriction. It feels like saying no more often than yes. But that feeling slowly starts to change. Because when you stop spending everything you earn, you start noticing something deeper. You start noticing how much of your spending was not actually needed. You start noticing how much of your stress was tied to money that was already gone. And slowly, your mind becomes calmer, not because life becomes easier, but because your direction becomes clearer. You stop reacting to money and start directing it. And while most people are trying to look successful in real time, you start building something that only makes sense after years. Something that grows quietly in the background of your life. Something that does not ask for attention but rewards patience. And the most powerful shift happens when you are